Welcome to another episode of Home Sweet Home. My name is Rod McCall.
And I'm Scott Nichols. So last week, at the last episode that we did, we talked a little bit about your story.
Yeah.
That, some depth that we haven't gone into before. We've seen pieces of it.
Mm-hmm.
We've heard pieces of it on the podcast in the past. And it kind of goes again to the whole reason that you're doing this podcast and that you do your speaking engagements and that you have decided to transition from teaching eventually into counseling.
Mm-hmm.
And you even do some things with court-ordered visitation, right? Where you can actually observe that visitation for the court and
Mm-hmm.
report back to the court
Mm-hmm.
on those occasions. So those are all things that are you're trying to help people who might be in this similar situation.
Oh yeah.
Or other family situations.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the last week when we talked about this, you told us about this new term, which of course, as a history person, I often discover that I read books and it's like, oh, there's this new thing, but if you take that and apply it back in history, it's really not new. We just found a name for it.
Mm-hmm.
And so this parental alienation that you talked about was kind of new to me.
Okay.
And in case somebody hasn't listened,
Mm-hmm.
hopefully they go back and listen to the previous episode, but in case they haven't, there's 3 stages to this parental alienation.
Well,
just briefly.
Yeah. It's based on research done by, believe it or not, a Dallas psychologist. His name is Richard Warshak. And
Okay.
he has written and researched a ton about parental alienation. And in his book, Divorce Poison, he identifies 3 levels of alienation. Level 1, which is a lot of times when kids try and pit, parent against parent, or mom or dad kind of don't want to be the bad parent, so they come
Sure.
out as be the good.
So as the kid, I'm asking them one parent, I don't get the answer I want. I go to the next one, and,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe I get the answer I want there.
Yeah,
Okay.
and like I say, level 1 happens a lot of times in intact, healthy families.
Sure.
Level 2 is when usually happens right after the divorce begins, and in which case both mom and dad want the kids to pick a side, and more specifically pick them and be angry at the other parent for causing the family to break apart, the divorce to take place.
Sure. Okay.
But that usually comes to an end after a few months when both mom and dad kind of come to their senses. They realize the damage and harm that is happening to the kids, and they realize, look, my hatred for the ex should not be transferred to the children. And so they put the kids ahead of their own anger towards their ex.
So
and it comes to an end.
Ideally, that ends. Okay. And then
Yeah.
level 3 must be very extreme, right?
Yeah, level 3 happens between 10 and 15% of divorces wind up here.
Okay.
And this is when one parent deliberately tries to erase the other parent from the children's lives. This is telling lies. This is interfering with visitation. This is making stuff up, rewriting family history, telling things to the kids that they don't need to know,
Mm-hmm.
including them in divorce information, saying, well, honey, we don't have money to buy you what you want at the store because daddy hasn't paid child support.
Right.
Or telling them, things about the legal proceedings that are not their business.
So when we had left off last week, we left off in an area where you had kind of entered stage 3. I mean, there had been some things where, your Eric was being told that secrets could be kept.
Mm-hmm.
There was active, manipulation to try to make sure that Eric would prefer to be with mom than with you.
Mm-hmm.
There was, you being accused of abuse,
Mm-hmm.
of both physical and, eventually sexual.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, as a teacher, that's a really bad accusation to have.
Uh-huh.
And so, you're being affected in your job, your career, your finances. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
things are getting really bad. And this all, of course, coming from somebody that, is educated in criminal justice and psychology, and is a professor at a college. I mean, there's some education there where she would know a lot of these things, and how to get it done, and evidently maybe even had some help, right? I mean, you talked about a story where she had somebody that was helping to produce a picture.
Yeah. Well,
so
yeah.
I mean, there's just a lot of stuff there, but we kind of ended in a courtroom.
Yeah.
In a courtroom thing. And I want to kind of go back to that. And,
okay, so here we are. Yeah, sorry. It's mid-February. It's after Valentine's Day. And we have a hearing, and the judge ultimately says that we're going to restart visitation. It was a Thursday. The court hearing was on a Thursday. He said visitation will start this weekend, so tomorrow, and he'll have them for the weekend. And we will have every other weekend from here on out.
Now, this sounds like a smart judge because he's kind of seen through this activity a little bit.
Well, he wasn't. Yeah, but he was a new judge.
Sure.
And so I was one of the first cases he took. And he was, I don't know that he agreed with her or with me, but he wasn't buying everything she was selling. And he wasn't totally convinced by CPS.
Sure.
So we go off. We have the visitation. Two other things that Charlie had asked for was a psychological evaluation, which the judge ordered, and then he also Charlie had asked for an ad litem attorney for Eric. So he would have his own lawyer, a lawyer that represented only Eric's best interest,
right?
Not mine, not his mother's.
Okay.
So all three things were ordered. Well, my best friend Steve had come up from Houston, and it was a pre-planned trip, actually. It just happened to coincide. But he was there that weekend to observe Eric and I. So we go over to Eric's mom's house, the family home, and I knock on the door, and he doesn't want to come out. And he's acting all squirrely, this, that, and the other. Doesn't want to go. No, I don't want to go. No, I don't want to go. He comes out. He runs around the house. And finally, Eric's mom says, "Oh, honey, it'll be fun. You'll have a good time." And all, trying to be as sweet as, syrup. And so what we do, it takes a few minutes, but he gets in the car and we drive out of sight of the car or out of the house. I haven't seen Eric in 4 months. And yet, as soon as the house was out of sight, he was laughing, joking, and having a good time as though 4 months hadn't gone by at all. That behavior of just 2 minutes before was all gone, which said to me he was acting for his mother. She had told him to act a certain way. Now, we wound up having a great weekend, had a fantastic weekend, and I dropped him back off that Sunday. And things went pretty good. But that's, again, where stuff, with his mom, that's when some of the phone calls began a little more earnestly. Okay, as soon as you come home, we're going to do this. As soon as you come home, we're going to do that.
Sure.
I would take him to Chuck E. Cheese. Well, suddenly she would be putting in his mind, well, why don't you see if Daddy will take you to Chuck E. Cheese again and again? Well, it's crying aloud.
You don't have the money.
I don't have the money. Right. Not only does she make twice what I make, she was also getting several $100s a month in child support.
So this is straight up manipulation.
Very, very much so. And so this goes on, and then we go into the summer, and lo and behold, if on my weekend I'm to go pick him up during the summer, he winds back up in Children's Hospital again. I mean, we're talking 3.5, 4 months later from when we started visitation. And so he's there. Only this time I'm better armed. I show up with the most recent court records, and I go straight to Children's Hospital, to the admit people, and I say, this is what's going on. This is, I have every right to medical. I have every right to visit him, to see him.
Sure.
And they actually take me in, and they let me be part of the treatment. Okay. And so we do really well. And I'm, in fact, it went real well. And after a week, they discharged him. What was great about this is when we go to trial here in a few more months, they have all kinds of records showing Eric's behavior with me and Eric's behavior with his mother.
Okay.
And so anyway, so we go through and we get into school and things are going pretty good. He's now in second grade. And because during first grade year, it was tough on him. One of the things that would happen after the February reinstitution of the visitation, he would go into school and he would tell his classroom teacher some outrageous story that had happened over the weekend while he was with me. And he would just come in and, like, matter of fact, hey, my dad beat me, and then he would go play. And so it was kind of like, wait a minute. And so the teacher was beginning to ask questions of what the heck is going on. And Eric would act real squirrely. I go try and pick him up from school, because I would pick him up from school for our Thursday evenings, and he would act real silly. No, I don't want to. No, I don't want to. No, I don't want to.
Right.
And make a scene at school. But then as soon as I get him in the car and we're out of the parking lot, boom, he's happy as a pig in mud. So again, acting the way mommy wants him to act. So all this is being seen by school. Well, we get to the end of summer, we go into school, or during, I guess, before we started in school that summer, we had our psychological evaluation done.
Yeah.
And it took a while. And when it came down to it, the psychologist said that there was no sign of any deviance in me.
Okay.
That I was a little too passive. But other than that, I was pretty normal, healthy person.
Sure.
He did say in his report that she had all the earmarks, all the symptoms, all the typology of someone with borderline personality disorder.
Okay.
And I didn't know what that meant, other than that she was a little off the reservation and I wasn't.
Right.
And so Charlie said, well, this will be good and we can use this when we go to court. What I did not know at the time that I do know now is that borderline personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder, which she had a lot of tendencies towards,
sure,
and antisocial disorder, as identified by Dr. Jennifer Harmon from Colorado State University, who was also put in her book, Parents Acting Badly. These three mental health disorders, if a parent has one of these three, the chances of parental alienation happening are magnificently higher.
Wow.
I forget what the chances are, but it's not 100% guaranteed, but it's a pretty close one. And so anyway, but again, I did not know this at the time. Anyway, so we have a court date, and through bad luck, the court date keep putting pushed back a little more and a little more and a little more. Finally, we are set for mid-October.
Okay.
And so I'm supposed to have Eric the weekend before the trial begins. And in this trial, she had asked for my parental rights to be terminated. And Charlie said, that's the most bizarre thing. He said, I would never do this. But he said, because she opened up the door, we're going to go through. And so we filed to terminate her parental rights.
Sure. Yeah, right. When you're getting sued, you countersue. Right?
Exactly. One of the things.
Great strategy.
Oh, well, one of the things that she also put in her petition was to have Eric's name legally changed, and it would drop the name McCall.
Sure.
And it would have her maiden name as his last name, which again is part of the alienation strategy to erase me.
See, now that seems very extreme, right? Like, you talk about a level 3 or, getting to that third level of parental alienation. I just imagine something bad, right? But what you're describing is like going beyond that. I mean, I don't know if there would be a level 4, but it seems like this is either like somewhere between level 4 and level 10 is where we're coming to here. So just craziness.
Well, so we have this trial, and it's a jury trial. And so the weekend before, like I say, I'm supposed to have Eric. Well, here we go again. Eric's admitted back to the mental hospital. And as I did earlier in the summer, I head down there and I'm going to be involved. Well, I show up to go visit him, and his mother was leaving the parking lot as I'm pulling in. And anyway, so I go in to go see him, and he yells at me. He says, "I don't want to see you, Daddy. I hate you."
Okay.
In which case, then he turns around and he walks back down the hall to his room.
So a total act.
Total act. But total I don't get, that's my last image of it. That's the last time I see him.
Yeah.
Okay.
How old is he at this point?
He's 7.
7. Okay.
His birthday will be in just, Halloween. So we're talking a couple of weeks, he'll turn 8. So I'm very upset, very disappointed, but I leave. Well, so we have the trial. We start the trial on Monday. Well, all my sisters, my parents, people were coming in. They come in Saturday or Sunday night. So we meet at Charlie's office to have a pre-trial powwow. And while we're there, I tell Charlie, I said, "Charlie, if this goes bad for her, I feel in my gut she's going to hurt him."
Wow.
And he goes, "Well, then we'll do what we can to protect him and make sure this doesn't, something bad doesn't happen." So we start the trial on Monday, and it's me and Charlie, it's Eric's attorney, and it's her and her attorney, which, by the way, this is now her 3rd attorney.
Okay.
And so we do the jury selection, and then we start and that takes all morning and into the afternoon, and then we start, because she filed the petition, she gets to go first. And so she's the first one up there on the stand. And she's looking really, I don't want to say pathetic, but pathetic.
Mm-hmm.
She shows up with rosary beads. This is a woman that, while raised Catholic, was about as anti-Catholic church as you could get, calling them such a bunch of misogynistic men who hate women and don't want women, to be involved, and blah, 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 blah.
So she's definitely continuing her act into the courtroom for the jury and for the judge.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So anyway, so she does her thing on Monday evenings, continues on Tuesday, and then Wednesday they bring in some medical experts. Her mom and dad, or her mom comes and testifies. Some of her friends who, one I learned later, well, she said all along, "Well, this is my godson."
Sure.
Well, it was her, what I learned later was her fiance. They were actually engaged to be married. This guy had moved into the house a week after I had been booted out. So much so that one of my neighbors said, "Well, shoot, I just thought you got a new car. I didn't realize that you were gone."
Wow.
And so anyway, this guy was there. And anyway, they were perjuring, telling stories that were absolutely lies. They saw me do inappropriate things with Eric in public and carrying on. And it was just, what a crock. They get the Eric's play therapist up there, and she's outside her mind. So she's so loopy that Charlie says, "Are you on drugs?"
I can picture Charlie saying that.
So anyway, so that was really horrible. And then we get to Thursday, and then Thursday's my turn, and I'm up there, and I got to tell you, they were asking really horrible, questions. I mean, they were legitimate questions, but you know how, okay, there are things that you do that you're not real proud of.
Sure.
And there are things that you don't mind peers knowing, but you sure as heck don't want your mama to know.
Yeah, or you definitely don't want it in the court record.
Yeah, well, I was asked really personal information.
Right.
And I answered it. And I answered it truthfully. Well, you're supposed to. It's
sure.
You're required.
You're under oath, right?
Yeah, but my mom was in the courtroom, and it was really embarrassing for me to hear for her to hear some of the things that I had done.
Right. We don't need to go into the details.
No, we won't. Anyway, so we finish up, and it's Thursday afternoon, and that goes to jury.
Okay.
To show you the level of her attempt to erase me and my family. My mom, my dad, and my oldest sister, Teresa, had gone to Eric's school to have lunch with him. I had checked it out with the principal that, is this okay? And she said, absolutely. We have grandparents come all the time. So yeah, send them down. So they go to eat lunch with Eric on Thursday.
Yeah.
Nobody knew that they were coming. They just showed up. And so they are in the office and they're standing in the hallway, and he comes down with his classmates and he sees them and he runs up to them and, gives them hugs and all excited. And he says, well, what are you doing here? And they say, well, we're here to have lunch with you.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like a curtain had come over his eyes. And he thinks for a little bit. And then he goes back to his teacher and he whispers something to his teacher. And then he goes and joins his classmates in the cafeteria line.
Yeah.
And the teacher comes over and she tells my mom and dad and sister that, well, Eric says that your dad's folks, your dad's family, I don't think I can have lunch with you because that would make mommy angry. So they don't get to have lunch with Eric that day. Well, like I said, it goes to jury Thursday evening or late afternoon. They adjourn for the day. We go home, and then it's Friday morning, and we're back in the courtroom.
Right.
I called the school to see if Eric was there, and they said, no, Eric is not there. That his mom had called him in sick, that he was, that he wasn't going to be there that day. And I'm going, this is not good. This is absolutely not good.
Sure.
When Charlie walks in, I tell him. When the ad litem attorney walks by, I tell her. They go in, they tell the judge. I said, this is not good. If this goes against her, this is not good. Right. She will harm Eric. He should be at school where he would be safe.
Sure.
But he was not. So it comes in. So the jury comes back, and we go in. It's about 9:30, something like that. And so we're all there. And in a ruling of 11-1, the jury makes a ruling that floored me beyond all doubt. This is a conservative state.
Mm-hmm.
This is a conservative county, one of the more conservative counties in a very conservative state.
Sure.
And to take away a child from their mother is nearly unheard of.
Right.
But in a ruling of 11-1, the jury ruled to strip her of her parental rights and give Eric entirely to me, 100% lock, stock, and barrel. She would never see him again.
Right.
Until after he turned 18 and he wanted to go see her.
Wow.
And to say I was floored would be a misstatement. That's not even close. I was absolutely shocked. So we're all hugging each other, and Charlie comes to me and he says, I want you to go home and go get your boy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going, okay, because but all three attorneys had gone up to the judge, and Charlie had wanted Eric to be brought to the courthouse. And the judge goes, I don't want the child to be brought up here because now he'll have a negative impression of what goes on here in the courthouse.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, go get, so we'll let the mom go home and say goodbye. And the dad can pick him up there.
Sure.
So I'm leaving, and Sherry was there. She had been there through the whole thing. And of course, at this point, we weren't dating. We were just like best pals. And my sister Deanna goes, and so the three of us, and we're racing. And I mean, from the Collin County Courthouse to our house was a bit of a haul, but I'm doing probably 90 miles an hour. I'm doing my best NASCAR impression to get all the way there. So
to be fair, 90 miles an hour on US 75 and this state is not really that fast.
Okay, it felt fast. Maybe it was pushing 100, but I mean, I'm weaving in and out of traffic. I mean, I'm doing like I say, my NASCAR impression to get there. And as we're getting close, we were discussing, given how the exchanges had been over the last few months, and to give you an idea, when I would say goodbye to Eric, I give him a hug.
Mm-hmm.
And this was in June, July. By the time July came around, or mid to late July, I was getting fist bumps. He wouldn't give me a hug goodbye in front of his mother. It would be a fist bump. And then the last couple of weeks, I didn't even get a fist bump.
Sure.
So we were afraid that there would be issues with the exchange. So called ahead to the local police department. I said, hey, this is what just happened. I'm on my way to go get my son.
Mm-hmm.
They said, that's fine, but police have already been dispatched. They're there waiting.
Wow.
And I'm going, holy shit. So we pull in front of the house, and lo and behold, there's a police car and two cops get out as I had pulled in behind them. And anyway, I tell them, hey, I'm Rod McCall, and I am here to pick up my son per court orders from the judge in this courtroom just now.
Yeah.
And so they go, okay. So I go up to the door, and I'm banging on the door. I hear the dogs barking, but nothing. Anyway, I'm going, okay, what's going on? So I'm banging again. And I'm not saying anything. I'm just knocking on the door.
Sure.
Thinking they're going to come. Well, nobody's coming to the door. Well, then another police or squad car pulls up and more cops come out. Then some of her friends show up. And then she pulls in, but she pulls in because the driveway's in the back.
Mm-hmm.
She pulls into the back and I'm in the front.
Yeah.
And now a third cop car pulls up. And so I'm knocking on the door. Well, my house, the house was on a corner.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I'd knock and I'd take a few steps back so you could open up the door. Well, as I knocked and I stepped back, I see her mom and dad walking across the street so that they would be, on the other side of the street. Like I say, it's a corner, so it's kind of hard to explain. Sure. But they were on the cross street across the road, standing on the sidewalk. And I'm going, what are you doing there? Why aren't you in the house? Well, I don't think that came out of my lips. And suddenly there were 3 gunshots. Boom, boom, boom. Cops are ducking behind their cars. Everybody's getting down. They're screaming at me to get behind the cars, get behind the cars. And I'm going, for what? She did what she was going to do. Yeah. At which point I lose it. I don't know what I said or did other than I literally lost my marbles.
Yeah, wow.
And
as could be expected.
And they ultimately break in to the house. And yeah, she had shot Eric and then killed herself on Friday, October 21st, 2011. And on Eric's 8th birthday, I buried him. I wish I could say that this was an unusual story. But I am sorry to say that is not true.
So you've heard of other stories like this?
Yes. Even here in North Texas, here across the state of Texas, across the country, parental filicide directly related to divorce and parental alienation is all too common. Wow. And so that's why I do all that I can to bring awareness to the masses. I wrote my book. I wrote my book for the love of Eric.
Yeah.
And I told my story, but it's not just my story. It's also about parental alienation, and it's about other people kind of sharing in a little bit about their story, their experiences too. Because I figured I don't want to just tell my story. Nobody would read it.
Sure.
But being an educator, I wanted to let other people know that this is not new. It's not unusual. In fact, sadly, it is way too common. It leads to, there are approximately 22 million kids today affected by parental alienation, according to a recent study that came out just maybe 2 years already. But I have not only written the book, I have traveled the country talking to groups in New York, Boston, Connecticut, various places in Pennsylvania, here in Texas and Kansas. I've testified before the Texas State Legislature. I have rallied in Austin, Texas, our state capital. I've even participated in a big old march in Washington, D.C. I've lobbied members of Congress. I have even presented a petition paper with over 20,000 names signed to the petition to ask the American Psychological Association to investigate further, adding the parental alienation to the mental health diagnosis. And
wait, it's not?
It is not official. Parental alienation is not.
Wow.
But there are other examples where you can tie in alienation. They are now addressing that emotional abuse does exist, and you can diagnose it. It is super, super hard because unlike physical and sexual abuse, it doesn't leave easy to see scars.
Sure.
And so I have been lucky enough to participate in a lot of different things. I belong to different organizations, one including the Parental Alienation Study Group, which has some of the sharpest minds on, not just in the United States, but across the world, trying to not just bring attention to what this is, but to get laws changed. Now, there's a lot of people that say, oh, alienation doesn't exist. Oh, it's a divorce dodge. Oh, it's just pseudoscience. It's a load of crap. Well, I can tell you straight up that those people got their head in the sand because this is a real thing. It does affect a lot of people, and kids are being sacrificed on the altar of family law all over the world. Not just here,
right,
but around the globe. I mean, I have a friend of mine, Ginger Gentile, and she turned out a video or a documentary you can actually find for free on YouTube titled Erasing Families.
Wow.
And it depicts several families going through this. I mean, the number of suicides by kids or by parents that are affected by this are astronomical. I'm embarrassed to say I don't have those statistics in front of me right now, but they are, if you don't know what it is, you don't know what to look for, you don't know what it looks like or it sounds like, then you need to learn so that way you can help families that are going through this.
Yeah. Well, hopefully there's some people listening that maybe they're in this situation, right? Maybe they're in a situation where they're either causing the alienation, maybe not even on purpose, but they're just doing the things that they've known other people to do, or but recognize that, it's hurting the kid the most.
Kids deserve,
and they should get to have both parents.
Absolutely, they should. Absolutely, let them decide if mom or dad is a jerk. Yeah. Don't you decide for them.
Well, I know that you wanted. We're going to be running out of time again.
Oh, good golly!
I know that you wanted to talk about a little bit about forgiveness with this, and I don't want to jump into that now because I think it'll take a whole other episode. But we can certainly do that as a next one follow up. I know that we had looked at a previous episode talking about some of that, so we'll be able to kind of build off of that, and it may be the next episode after this one. It may be a couple more down the road, because that's a tough issue to work through, but it's an important one, right? Mm-hmm. I know that you think it's an important one as well for moving forward in life. So. But definitely, Rod mentioned his book. He's got For the Love of Eric, which is available on Amazon.com. And I wanted to mention, if he does do speaking engagements, has done them in the past. And if you want to get in touch with Rod for any of his many services to try to, he's got to help things. There's ericsplaceofhope.com. That's spelled ERYKS, placeofhope.com, and he's got a little contact section on there, so in an email there as well, or you can contact through this podcast as well, and that Eric's Place of Hope is actually attached to the episode as a link. So if you go into your whatever podcast service you're listening through. It should be a link available there for you to grab off of any of the episodes that we have. So definitely. It's quite a thing. I've known lots of people who have gone through difficult situations. Mm-hmm. This is probably the most extreme one that I've ever heard of. And been in touch with a person who's gone through something so horrible. But you have, like others in terrible situations, turned it into something that is for good, for humanity, right? For families, for kids. For parents trying to better people's lives and kind of save people from being in these situations.
I guess at the end of the day, I just want Eric to be proud.
I'm sure he is. I'm 100% sure of that.
Well, I sure hope so. Right. Anyway. Well, I think I need a Kleenex right about now. So I guess until next time, I'm Rod.
And I'm Scott.